All right, everyone, welcome back to the 580 Show, episode 118. Myself, and this week joining us, 2022 80 kg Arnold World Champion and 2023 90 kg World Champion Andrew Hanus. What's up, buddy?
What's up, dude? What's up? Good to
Glad to
see
have you
you.
back. You're a reoccurring guest now, so you were
Yeah.
on.
Oh, yeah. This is number two.
Yeah, so actually, little fun fact, I want to tell you on the pod, but you were on episode 56, so now we're on 118, and the third most viewed episode we've ever had. So
Really?
yeah, so we've through 118. That's
That
not
was one
bad
and
being top
two.
three. Uh we broke the new when we had Rob Kearney on when like all that
Oh,
crap
yeah.
that was like a monster. So
Rob deserves to be ahead of me.
yeah. So maybe we'll catch Rob this episode. Who knows? But I
Hell
mean,
yeah.
so you're coming off a enormous kind of, I don't want to say definitely unexpected because you were signed up to compete as an 80
Hmm.
kg.
Dude,
So
ain't that the truth?
uh so just kind of how do you feel like coming off the Arnold?
Man, unexpected. Well, how do I feel? I don't know if a lot of people know, but literally Monday morning we left Columbus and woke up with COVID and have had COVID for the last 2 weeks. This morning, I finally tested negative. Still a little congested, but 2 weeks of just being sick. And so it's been wild trying to process anything when you just feel, when you have that illness, that sickness in you. And so I haven't even really been able to just like focus on a lot of things, work, life. I mean, we close on a new house, all those fun things involved. And I think I'm still a bit kind of shocked that I was able to pull off what I pulled off in, I mean, such a very slim, narrow margin of points, and the way that everything fell is still kind of just, it's just shocking. So
Yeah.
I'm thrilled. I'm happy with the turnout. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Was it so I just remember like because we were messaging in the week leading up, just kind of like I think a lot of us kind of message how you doing, stuff like that. Just kind of keep in
Yeah,
touch, just competing against each other.
gotta
And
love that with the
I was like,
80s.
yeah, this is my biggest weight cut ever. And you're like, what are you at? I'm like 192. You're like, dude, I hate you. I was two something. And I was like, in the
Yep.
back of my head, I'm like, did you kind of have in the back of your head, like, I have 90 as a fall, like as a fall plan, or were you
Yeah.
going for 80 and it's just like fell
That
short?
was, yeah. 90 was never the plan. I want to make that clear to some people who think that I was trying to do that all along. No, that was never the plan. The plan was to rightfully defend the 80K
Right.
title. Um, and I planned on doing that one because I knew Josh was coming in hot. I knew Cody was coming in hot. We had a lot of young guys like yourself, like Alec, like Bobby, Chris. Everybody's coming in, want to take a claim at the podium. And so I felt an obligation, I felt a duty to
Right.
sort of defend that title. And especially when you start talking about our guys from overseas and you talk about Ben and Josh who are coming.
Right.
And I really had no plans to go into 90. I know the year before I made a promise. I'm like, I'm done with 80K now. It just after that cut and how scary that was in 2022,
Yeah.
never wanted to do that again. Um, I working with Beck Lorch over the fall and into the winter, before her passing, unfortunate passing. Um, we had planned to, we talked it out. We said, we can get down to 80. We can do it healthy. We can do it safe. And we can do it way ahead of time so you don't have to cut 30 plus pounds. And so that was the goal. And so I think I really felt an obligation to also make it down there because that was part of the plan the entire time. So when I didn't make it down, of course, um, thankfully this year there was a 90K class, the first time that the 90K class ever was at the Arnold, and I was able to roll into that. And yeah, so that was not the plan. That was not the plan.
Yeah. It was crazy because you mentioned overseas Ben Donen. I was super excited to
Yeah.
compete against him, like because he's kind of like,
Yeah.
he's the guy right now in 80s. Um, Coming off Clash and then OSG and then Josh Lancaster too. And
Yep.
all three of you guys didn't make weight.
All three of us. Can you believe that? I mean, And I really do feel for all of my international friends who have to travel to the US for these really big shows.
Yep.
And I mean, the things that you have to go through just for preparation for the, 10, 16-hour flights, and then the travel on either
Yep.
end of those flights, the bloating that you experience. I mean, because I don't know about you, but like for me, if I air travel, I'm
Oh
bloating.
yeah.
It
I
happens.
actually I actually talk about that. I've talked about that a couple
Yeah.
times on the pod. Like I do think at some point it is unfair, like how OSG is. It's the world's strongest man for weight classes, like undoubtedly right now, right? Like it,
Right.
everyone calls it world's strongest man, and I think rightfully so. But to have it in the States every year, I do like. Obviously, I like it for me if I plan to compete there because it's just got closer to us
Cheaper,
now. It's in
closer.
Charleston, so it's
Oh
three
yeah,
hours from
now
my
it's in
house.
Charleston.
But man, like, there was a guy in our class from Bahrain, and his name's Omar, and
Yeah.
he had 24 hours of flight alone,
See,
from Bahrain. So that's not even counting, like sitting in airports, stuff like that. It was 24 hours of actual air travel, and you just think about people like that. You make a really good point. It's like I have nothing to complain about, man, because I'm in Western Pennsylvania going to
right.
Columbus.
3 hours, right? Like
Right.
beautiful.
This year Nationals was in Erie. It was less than 2 hours for me. Like it,
Ideal.
yeah.
And it
Props to
really becomes
people.
unfair. And to think
Yeah.
like we're able to travel with a car full of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got your saunas, you've got your foods, you've got anything, your blankets, whatever
Yep.
you possibly could need. And our friends are overseas, like Ben, like he brought his portable sauna and it broke in travel, right?
Right.
And so when he's trying to set it up in the hotel and the thing is just not functioning, um, I mean, what do you do, right? And so now
Right.
you've got to scramble, and especially when you have language barriers, it's hard to sort of find solutions.
Right.
So I think it's unfair, and I'm glad to see now that we have a Europe's official
Yep.
strongman games coming up, the EOSG or whatever we want to call it, which I think is fabulous.
Yep.
We need more like that. So if there's like an um, OSG, if OSG was to start making more opportunities like that, I think that will help all of the weight classes, all of the athletes, international, excel in the sport. It's
Right.
going to help grow the sport.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, I just yeah, that you kind of said it all, but it blows my mind because I forget things and I screw up just traveling 3 hours, like in my cooler, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I can't imagine flying 24 hours. And then the language barrier is so crazy because like I'm sitting in that rules meeting and I'm looking over at Ben Doan and I was a couple people down from him, and like
Hmm.
he's just nodding, like he doesn't understand. There's no purpose on earth for him to be at that rules meeting. There's no
Yeah.
translator. And
Well, his dad's pretty good at
yeah,
translating for him, which is why every time I've seen him, and his dad is with him, it's definitely a positive because his dad is such a good guy
yeah, he
too.
seemed like such a
So
nice guy. I
nice.
I communicated with Ben for like 30 seconds just strictly through like hand signs, and it was really awesome
Yeah.
to finally get to
Yeah, dude. I walked up to him and I had my Google Translate and I was like, and he's like, yeah, yeah.
yeah. But like, and I really don't know what the answer for that is. Like when you have an international contest, which the Arnold is a world
Right.
contest. Like I I don't know if it's feasible for like an amateur world championship to have translators for each language that's going to be there. It's
Yeah.
just it's a really tough situation, and it just goes back to like props to those people that are traveling and going through that. You know what I mean? Because I
Yes.
just can't imagine
Absolutely.
how overwhelming it is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is. It is something else.
So kind of talked about your experience quickly with like the 90s. What do you I heard you on Camby's podcast talk about the Steinborn, which I think is really cool. Uh
Yeah.
what is that a plan to hit the Steinborn world record, and what else is like in strongman specifically contest? What's your plan?
Man, right now, so yeah, I think now that I can stop worrying about trying to be the smallest version of myself that I can be, and I can maybe put on a little bit more weight comfortably and not worry about training energy and all that stuff, food and diet. I think I definitely want to take a stab at that Steinborn record that Martins has. 565 was the record that he did at Arnold a few years ago. with those official beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful globe barbell. Oh my gosh. I just want to touch that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think if you know a few years ago, about 2 years ago, I repped 405 relatively easily. And that was as a 80 key. I
Yeah.
mean,
That's being
was
walking around
tiny.
it, you know, being cognizant of your weight, right?
Yeah. And I mean, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to add 200 pounds to that. 600-pound Steinborn squat is
Yeah. You're talking about a
insane jump.
significant, you're talking about a
Yeah.
significant jump. But what would you say? It's always mind blowing for the average listener, or maybe the more novice, that to even for me, because I cut, 17, 18 pounds for a contest.
Yeah.
It's always hard to explain to them like a water cut, and we'll talk about that more. What do
Yeah.
you think though, your body weight, if you were just saying, okay, no weight classes, I'm going to be Andrew Hanus, whatever my natural body weight is, eat whatever meals I eat, drink whatever, and step on a scale in a year, what do you think your body kind of regulates at, like what body
Now
weight
I'm
wise?
thinking my body regulates at about 200-ish, 203, 205
Yeah.
nowadays. I mean, literally all the way up until I was like 30, 32 years old, I was in the mid 190s. And that was pretty standard. Like nothing I could do all through the military, all the running, all the different types of environments I would live in. I never really got below 188. So like that was sort of my range.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm getting a little bit older, I think that, and plus diet and all those things, all those factors of life that kind of come into play, I'm regulating about 200 to 205. And
Yeah.
I expect that I can now train as a 200 and 205 competitor and
Yeah.
actually fill out there. That might be really beneficial for me.
Yeah, it's cool because the 200s now have a huge presence, like the 90 kg 200, whatever you
Holy
want to call it.
moly, they do.
And like if you look at Strongman Corp, it was kind of it was always kind of like second fiddle because they had the subclasses. So
Yeah,
like you
that's
have like
right.
CJ Pierce win nationals, but he's
Yep,
like technically seventh overall because he's going against 231s that cut down from 265.
that's
And
right.
CJ's walking around at 210. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's like it's crazy. I'm really happy because I think that's a really cool group of guys and like really strong. And I think it's like kind of our class. It's more relatable to the average person.
yep,
Like a 200-pound guy is a pretty average size human.
yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
you see them doing a 700-pound deadlift, you're like, wow, that's insane.
Yep.
Um, but you had mentioned like your time in the military, right? And
Yeah,
I think that's really cool. And you've talked about the Warrior Dog Foundation and your dog Benny, right?
that's right. BEN
Benny. So so
Benny T120.
so were you? How long were you in the military for?
So 6 years active duty, and then I
Okay.
did 3 years in the guard.
Okay.
So a total of
So
9.
were you always like, even when you were in the military,
Mhm.
you weren't maybe training strongman, but were you always like just growing up and in your time into high school and college or in the military, were you always like a stronger guy?
I wouldn't say always a stronger guy. In high school, I didn't care for lifting weights one bit,
Yeah.
but I was a sprinter. So track came first for
So
me.
everyone that sent me a message, sorry to cut you off, Andrew. That's how you got your quad. Is that your quads? People are
Oh my
obsessed with
gosh,
your
the quads. I got multiple quad comments too.
people are
So yeah,
obsessed with your quads, dude.
I honestly I think that maybe probably is part of it. I was obsessed with sprinting. I love sprinting. I
Yeah.
was fast AF
If you look
for a
at Kevin
young
Oak,
white boy in Ohio.
do you know who Kevin Oak is? Powerlifter, like
No.
he's like one of the best raw squatters in powerlifting history. And he was a Division 1 sprinter, like a really good one.
Oh, no
And he's got
kidding.
quads like you as well. So
No kidding.
that's maybe it has nothing to do with sprinting, but that's just how I
I
associate
mean,
it.
it could be. I used wrestling and football to stay in shape for track.
Cool.
So whereas as other people use it's the reverse, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then I didn't really find the gym until I was in the military. And then that was sort of a very interesting sort of find in itself because yeah, all right, you got to be in shape. So you're already doing your squadron PT and your unit PT and all that fun stuff, and you're running miles and miles and blah blah blah. But it wasn't until actually my mom had she had gotten cancer back in the late knots, the knots, the double O's, and she had passed in 2010,
Okay.
and I was actually on a deployment and had to go home. And then for her funeral, and then I returned to that same deployment, which in retrospect was a very poor decision on the military's behalf to send someone who's grieving the loss of their mother back to a deployment zone. Um, and I kind of lost myself in that space and went through some dark times. But one thing that I was able to sort of latch myself to was the gym. And it was a way for me to kind of exhaust myself mentally, emotionally, physically. And that just sort of became natural, became habit. I conditioned myself to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with it.
Right.
Just all sorts of, really more or less, it was bodybuilding. That was my first time I was ever exposed to CrossFit. I was deployed. So it was just like, really, that was my first kind of step into this fringe realm of sports, of bodybuilding, CrossFit, strongman. And then from there, it was, now I got to stay in shape so I can make this unit. I was doing the Army PT test so that way I could get sent to Ranger School. And if you're in the Air Force, you have to go through the US or you have to go through Air Force Ranger School before you can go to Army Ranger School, because they don't want to send a bunch of dopes, of course, to embarrass the Air Force. I never made it because I could never finish the 5 mile time under 40 minutes. I think my best was like 42 minutes. And I was like,
Wow.
um, and so I was doing all sorts of things so that way I could be on, just be top tier guy selected for missions and things like that. And so it always benefited me. And along the way, I would do some powerlifting meets, because that was a very standard thing you could do anywhere you were deployed, is you had a barbell and a
Yeah.
bench, basically. And had some fun with that. And then also discovered strongman along the way. And strongman just kind of stuck because it resonated a lot more with what I was doing career wise, right? Pick up
Right.
heavy ass shit, carry it as fast as you can out of the battle zone, right? Like,
Yeah.
hands down, the most lateral parallel sort of linkage there. And so I stuck with strongman and found my way back to it, of course, once I got out of service and I was able to train it more.
Yeah, that's cool. I think a really cool point you made is like going through maybe like a really dark time in your life, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. A lot of people have
Yeah.
found the gym as a therapy as much mentally as it is physically. So it's cool to hear you say that, because I know it's, helped myself and a lot of people
Mhm.
mentally. I'm sure, almost everyone
It
that's a
does.
meathead and trains, they
It's
train as
something
much
that
for
you can
mental as they do
control.
physical. Right.
That's one of the like biggest things, is we have so many uncontrollables in our life that we're always trying to find a way, like, okay, how do I fix this, how do I fix that? And then you might not be able to, but there's one thing that you can always control, and it's how you're doing in the gym. And it doesn't matter if you ask anybody if they've ever felt like complete dog shit and they've went to the gym and they've gone through even a semi decent training session, they've
Yep.
left and they've felt 100 times better because of it.
Yep.
And it's because it's positive. It's releasing endorphins that reinforce positive thoughts, positive influence, and it just helps you be in a better state of mind. So that way, when you get back to reality, when you walk out of the gym doors and you realize, like, oh, my bank account looks like shit. Oh, like somebody's sick
Yep.
over here. Oh, like people at work are driving me, through a wall, like they're driving me nuts. You can actually be in a better state of mind and approach all those circumstances with
Yeah.
more level head. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's really, really important, is just controlling your emotions and your
Yeah.
mental state.
Like I know for me, and I'm sure it's the same with a lot of people, we have work, we have our social media. Like I run a gym Instagram and a pre-workout like Instagram page. So it's like a lot of my day is like dialed in on the phone, dealing with people in my actual job. And it's just like a shut off. You just get to literally shut the switch off for 2 hours, however long you train, and just not worry about any of those outlying, things in your life, and just go do it. And it's fun,
Yes.
and
Yep.
I saw a thing the other day that was cool. It was like no matter if you're poor or rich or ugly or handsome, like a physical like build is like one thing that like none of that matters. Like your
Yep.
physical, like it's just one thing that you have to earn no matter what your standing is in life. I
That's
thought that was
right.
really cool.
That's right. Hell yeah, man.
But so the next thing I wanted to talk about is, so I know for myself, like when I first I came from powerlifting. You talked about like when you're in the military, you had a barbell. That was just what I found in college. I played rugby and I just met a powerlifter, and that was just the style that I trained.
Yeah,
And when I found strongman, you go down this rabbit hole, right? And you compare yourself to guys your weight. So myself, like when I found it, I was comparing myself to like Nick Gagnon because he was like on a tear with like nationals and stuff like that.
sure was.
Kale Beck, people, Cody Abel even was like pretty coming up then. Just all those guys.
Right.
So someone that's just now getting into strongman now, maybe like around our class, and they're seeing Andrew Hanus, Ben Donan. What would kind of be your advice to them? Maybe they do want to eventually get to like an Arnold, an OSG, the big shows. What would be
Yeah.
like your training advice for them?
Oh man, easy. Stay the course.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing is staying the course. Even I, in preparation for this Arnold, I had some very irrational thoughts going through my head, even with the list of accomplishments behind me. Am I worthy? Am I good enough? Am I strong enough? Do I deserve to be there? And I think that's one of the things that we face a lot when we size ourselves up to others, whether it's in our sport or on social media or whatever it is you would start to feed a little bit of doubt into in the back of your mind. And I think that it's really important to just stay your course and stay driven and just block out the naysayers. A lot of people along my path, my journey, have just been naysayers. What are you doing this for? What are you getting out of this? You're going to get hurt, or this seems really dumb, or all these things like you're spending too much money doing this because we do spend some money.
Yeah, for sure.
But all of those things, all those people that you just got to block them out. You just got to do what is meaningful to you. You got to stick to a plan. I find that that's the best is you have to have a plan, a program, a training regimen in place. And then the other thing is finding a network, right? And so having a community that you can sort of identify with or attach with or reach out to when you have questions. And they can be questions about how to lift or questions just because you're feeling concerned about something else because we've all been through similar emotions or similar experiences.
Yep.
And so I found that people are so open to just kind of talking about what they've gone through, what their remedies were, whether it was an experience with a coach, an experience with, a lifting technique, or some other kind of nonsense, fun story that you had at the gym, right? Everybody has these shared experiences, and that's really important to have a community that you can reach out to. And also that community then ends up lifting you up. And so I would never have made it this far if it weren't for my community. And my community is kind of weird because because of the military, I've lived in so many different states and cities that I have little like pockets of communities all around the country. And people will always be reaching out to me to give me support, or just for insight and advice, and just kind of being there as sort of console for anything you could need. And so I think it's definitely been probably the most valuable part of my experience as a strongman has been building this community of peers, of friends, of competitors to help my success overall. And so that's,
Yeah.
I think, my biggest advice.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's awesome now. Like social media definitely has bad things, but
Mm-hmm.
and if you're looking at someone, you got to remember, I heard someone say this, Instagram is a highlight reel for that person. Like they're not going on there and they're posting 99.9% of people aren't going on and like they miss their 10th rep on a set of incline bench. They miss a
Yeah.
circus dumbbell. They miss a squat. Like they're not posting that stuff. They're posting when they hit their PRs, when they
Right.
do good at a contest, stuff like that. So just remember
Yep.
that when you're following, like,
True.
you know what I mean? But it's cool with
It's so
social
true.
media because we can all be connected. Like
Yeah.
I've I just met like 10, 20 people that I've talked to on Instagram for a long time. I just finally got to meet up with the Arnold. And you go up and it's
Yeah.
like they're your brother, like it's like they're your best friend
Isn't that
because
awesome?
it's so cool. Like you don't skip a beat. It's like it's awesome because we're all in this small, you always have to remind yourself how small and niche the strongman community is. As much
Yeah.
as we want it to be this huge thing, like it's my cousin's a competitive CrossFitter, and he was on here
Okay.
and they started talking about the numbers that they have for the CrossFit Open. And
Yes.
like you
Oh my
look at
gosh.
that, and then you look at like
Hundreds
registrations
of
for
thousands.
OSG, and you're like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
this is just insane how much smaller we are.
It's wild. It's wild to
Yeah.
see like you ranked 177,000th out of,
Yeah.
whatever. And you're like,
Right.
well, we had like we didn't even have 177
Right. Right.
class for OSG. Like it's wild to think about.
Yeah, it's nuts. But I think eventually, like you'll see more and more strong, like niche strongman gyms pop up in the world, like how CrossFit has
Yeah.
boxes, I think slow and steady, like strongman will kind of
Hmm.
I think one thing that people forget to remember is CrossFit's a business. Like CrossFit is literally owned. It's by people. They
Right.
have a CEO and it's called CrossFit.
Yep.
Strongman has a lot of divide in it.
For
There's two
now.
federations in America. There's official
Yeah.
strongman games. Like there's
Oh
Clash.
man.
Like you start to explain it to people and they're like, wait, what's
It's
this one?
really confusing. And unless you're in it, it doesn't make sense. And
Oh,
even
dude.
I've been in it for, 10, 11 years now, and I still can't keep track of things. I resource people all the time to be like, who does this and what's this organization and why is
Right.
this way? But yeah, it doesn't even make sense. And it gets even more complicated in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so I mean, there's just so many different, I mean, yeah, the federations are messy to follow, but it's easy. Like once you figure out like, oh, I'm going to do a local show. I mean, it's pretty much self-guiding from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's when you start to get more on like the elite big level that it becomes confusing and you get invites from different places and all that.
Yeah. So
But man,
with the stuff, like just to go back to you personally too, you have
yeah.
this, you want to try the Steinborn. Are you gonna do any shows, like any strongman specific shows?
I have the only so funny you should say that. So I am planning right now, it's not in stone, but I am planning to do OSG as a 90K.
Sweet.
I do not plan to cut to an 80K again. So I think I am, yes, a permanent 90. Um, but I'll figure out more about that later on. I did receive an invite to Chaos Classic 90K and the
Oh yeah.
Clash 90K, but I'm not going to be doing either of those. At least right now, like I've got other life things that I need to kind of deal with, but
Yeah.
also just because this was my big debut as a 90, I still don't think I'm 100% ready to compete with the big 90s anyways. I still need some time to, uh, you know, get better, to be on that more elite level. Even though sometimes I think I could probably hold my own ground.
I would
Uh,
say so because you just won the Arnold at 90. So I think you
yeah,
can hold your own ground, honestly.
yeah, but it's also it's expensive too,
Yeah,
all
right.
these contests. I would love to do chaos, but oh man, the travel for that, the
Yeah.
costs involved with that are going to be just so high.
It's
So it's
yeah,
hard to say.
it's
But
wild. Like when you get to a more competitive, you know, like I don't want to talk about myself in an aspect where I'm competitive, but like when you start to get to a higher level where you're competing at like world shows and qualifying for them and stuff, you really, it's crazy. You have to sit down and plan out your year.
oh, yeah,
When before I got into strongman, like my first couple of years is just like I'll do this local show, then I'll do this local
you're
show, and
right.
it's like,
And that's where the enjoyment is too.
yeah, right. It's just going and just doing a show, and it's like that's
Yes.
the I'll always still, no matter like if I'm doing OSG stuff like that, like I'll always want to do like that gym contest, like in a parking lot, like because that's the
Oh yeah.
most pure thing in strongman. Like the novices, like it's really fun to on a promotional aspect to see that.
I've never done a novice division.
Yeah, like just your first, like when I run a contest, like you ask them like whose first show is this, and when like 25 hands go up, it's like really cool because
Yeah.
you have like a obligation to make that show awesome for those people so they keep coming back.
Yep. Hell yeah. No, I think that's pretty actually rewarding as a promoter from that standpoint,
It's
to do that. And I think one of the best times I ever had at a contest, um, it was Central Georgia's Strongest Man. I don't remember which year, but we were getting poured on, just absolute rainstorm. And we were doing, the first event was log clean and press. And I remember this log was wrapped in like a decal, and so it was really slick. And I'm wearing a hoodie like this,
Yeah.
and we're just out on this super wet, mat, just log pressing, looking directly up into the rain, and that it's moments like that when you're cold, when
Yep.
you're wet, and you're all in it together having fun. Like moments like that make it so much more meaningful
Yeah.
as a sport. You it's just so cool.
Yeah.
You
I
look in the
agree.
moment, you're like, this is bullshit, blah blah
Yeah,
blah. And
right.
afterwards, you're
That's
like,
so funny.
love it.
That's so funny you say that. Like, so we did a show. There was a show about an hour and a half from us this year, and it was unsanctioned, and it was like benefiting a local VFW.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So my
Thanks
buddy
for
that
doing
ran
that.
its name is Kyle, and um decides to do a show like end of November in Eastern Ohio. So it's snowing and like
Oh,
and we're like, dude, I don't want to go to this. We had a supplement booth at, and we had a couple gym members competing, but then we
yeah.
went, and it was like it was out. The show was outside, end of November in Eastern Ohio, and it was snowing. And but it was like a lot of novices. It was my best friend, best man at my wedding. It was his first ever strongman comp, and it was just like you left, and we were all so happy, and it would like remind you. You need those moments, like you said about Central Georgia Strongest, like
Yeah.
those like humbling moments to like bring you back. Is like, why did I truthfully start doing this? Like, I don't need
Yeah.
to be stressed about everything in this because it is just fun.
It
Like,
is just,
there's
it's
that
what it is.
50-year-old mom that's doing their first strongman contest, and it means just as much to her as OSG or the Arnold means to you or I. You know what I mean?
Yep. And
So,
that's so meaningful right there.
right, 100%.
So meaningful.
So, what's up with? I thought it was really cool, like your partnership with A7. I know
Yeah.
that definitely means a lot to you. Do you want to speak on that a little bit, like how you're
Yeah.
affiliated with them and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So A7, I've been, I guess, officially sponsored by A7 since last year, Arnold time frame. Um, but I've been, I think, I've been buying from A7s for as long as I can remember, like 2015, 16 or something like that. And so I had an early relationship with A7 as a strongman competitor. And that was sort of, just natural, organic. I never really asked for a sponsorship with them, but they were always just a company that I was able to stand behind and support. One, because fight me, they make the best bar grip shirts, period. End of story. Um, Two, the clothing that they make, the material is just perfect. Like it's clean, it's quality, it doesn't fade, it doesn't shrink. You don't have all these other issues, right? So it's just the quality behind it too, but it's also a lot of the philosophy behind it, right? So A7 isn't about all these crazy promotions and all these marketing campaigns and these discount codes. People always ask me, do you have a discount code? No, I don't have a discount code for A7. And people think that's crazy. And it's not, because and the philosophy behind them is that behind A7's reasoning is they're not trying to diminish the branding of their product by providing all of these one-time use promotion codes, which essentially, you end up gaining a lot of fleeting customers, right? A lot of fleeting consumers. And so they
Yep.
come in for these one-time, I deserve a discount sort of mindsets, and then they never come back to you. And so they're trying to build a loyal community of consumers. And those are sort of some of these mindsets I can get behind. But it's also like when I asked them if they'd be interested in sponsoring official strongman games a couple years ago, I think it was 21, and now they've been 21, 22 sponsors. Um, it was at that time that I was able to really connect and engage with the owner at that time, Jason. And he and we resonated a lot. And I think he recognized, he's like, you've been with us for a long time. And seeing your character and who you are as a human and as a competitor and what you want to do and how you benefit from the sport and the sport benefits from you. I want you to be our first sponsored strongman. And so that was sort of how our sponsorship relationship started. And from there, we have some fun conversations here and there. We're always talking about how we can innovate different gear, whether it's on stone sleeves or some of the buckles on the stone sleeves, things like that. talking about shorts
They have
and
the best stone sleeves.
they're amazing,
I
right?
got their stone sleeves like 2 years ago because I just hate such a pain to wrap your forearms every time with like
Oh,
tape or whatever. And like just being able to click in those stone sleeves, I love them. So
yeah, it's nice.
I
And so
I
stay tuned. There's going to be new stone sleeves coming out with new buckles.
oh, that's cool.
And so the way that they latch on will be much smoother.
That's cool.
Um, and so yeah, he's incredibly innovative. He's talented. Their media team is beyond this world. I mean, they're film producers and they're photographers. There's something else. They're out of this
Yeah.
world. Good people, and they captured some moments at the Arnold that were
I was
just
just gonna say
mind blowing. I don't
those
know
videos were
how they
so
did that.
good. Like
So good.
those little promo videos, like those were awesome. Like
Yeah.
that's really
And he
cool.
did that, right there on the spot during the contest. And so major props to Samuel for doing that.
That is really cool.
And what's really funny is he was in there because he had his media sponsor badge on. And so
Mhm.
he was just in there shooting footage day one. And he's like, I got kicked out by this woman with a hat. And I was like, oh, you got kicked out by Dia. And
Yeah.
then later that night, or what, the next night, she's like, just want to say to all the athletes, keep your sponsors out of the arena.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was laughing so hard. Um, but also it was kind of sad, because that we have a lot of sponsors that are there, and we have people like Derek and Shelley who are there taking
Yeah.
photography and things like that. But it was really hard for our spectators to like see what was going on, especially on day
Yeah.
one, really only on day one, because it was
Yeah.
just an unfortunate setup.
Yeah.
But
It's
A7 was able to capture a little bit, and that I'm really thankful for.
yeah.
And the videographer, or the film producer, he's building actually my official A7 debut video as we speak, and so that'll be released on their YouTube, which I'm kind of pumped about because they just released Jen Thompson's not too long ago, a
Oh,
few
I
weeks.
saw that one. Yeah.
And so to be like following up with Jen Thompson as an A7 athlete
That's
is,
so cool.
oh man, I fanboy over Jen Thompson. I feel like she's one of the first female powerlifters I ever took note of.
Yep.
And to see her for so long continue the succession is
It's
just
so cool. I
mind blowing.
remember I'm the same way. I remember watching her bench 315 like years back and just being like
Yeah.
so mind blown because it speaks for itself. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
I
really
don't
cool.
know if she's got like 70 or 80 world records
Yeah,
that are her world records.
right.
It's wild.
Yeah, I
So
was just curious about that A7 relationship because I thought it was really cool.
yeah.
So yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it
And I
is
mean the
unfortunate.
concept's stronger than
Yeah, there
before.
you go.
Demand greatness. I mean, those speak to my ethos. Is so yeah. It's
Yeah, that's
that's why I'm
cool.
always posting that stuff. We always
Yeah,
come back stronger than before. So even when we're down, we're coming right back up better. And it's just that demand greatness mentality, right? No matter
right.
what position you're in or what your circumstances are, just you've got to demand greatness of yourself.
Yeah. And let's talk like so you talked about day one. So if you don't know about the Arnold Amateur, there was day one and then there was a day off, and then day two was the finals on Sunday. And you talked about the spectating being hard because and I think that's really tough because it just depends where the Arnold puts you that year. And
Yeah.
like we were kind of in a really weird spot this year because we were almost in like the flow of traffic. Like people were
Yeah.
walking kind of around. The athlete area wasn't big by at all. Like my
Nope.
stuff was outside the athlete area personally.
Same.
I think
I
a
was in
lot,
the audience in the spectator area,
yeah, I think a lot of
which
us
is
were
not safe and where I want
in
it to
that
be.
same. And it is crazy to see like some of these people, how much hard work they put in. Like James Deffenbaugh, like I think he's a really like I think he's kind of like an unsung hero behind the whole thing of Strongman Corp because I don't think people
So
realize like
talented.
people don't know who James is because he doesn't talk and he's not out there and he's just doing everything silently behind the thing. But he brings the farmers, made the power stairs, made the odd object load, made the awesome Ukrainian deadlift apparatus. Like
Mhm.
it's insane. Like I think people like James, Brian Benet judging, Tommy Burns judging. I always forget Scrawny Beast's real name, Laura. I believe.
Oh yeah,
Laura.
yeah,
But like all those people, it's crazy, like that they allow us to do what we do. But
right.
I think I'm curious what you would do to make the amateur setup run maybe more smooth. If you had advice, like I know you're not a
Man.
promoter, but like what would you do as because I think it's like you're at the top of the top for the Arnold. I think like your guidance and your just kind of thoughts would be really like important here. Like what would you do if you were running the Arnold Amateur? Like to expedite it a little
Yeah.
bit, but also make it awesome for the athletes.
Honestly, I mean, talking about expediting, I mean, they were incredibly fast this year.
Yeah.
So I got to give them mad props to that. Being fast in that environment. Also, they knew they were getting kicked out at a certain time, things like
And I
that.
think like to be fast with like some of those events were hard. Like an auto object load is not easy to be fast with.
No, no, not at
Like
all. And
God, and those
resetting a sled pool or farmers,
oh, and they
that's a
had
pain.
power stairs earlier for the
For the
firefighters.
firefighters, that's
I'm like,
right.
man, this is not
And they
easy.
had to reset the power stairs for the odd object load, right? So
Yep.
there's so much going on that people don't even recognize is happening while other events have already started.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, given that they were volunteers, I don't know. Some of them were compensated. Some of them, I don't know if they were or not.
Yeah. And even when you say compensation, just to
Yeah,
define that for the average person, it's not like your work paycheck. It's like a hotel room and like
some
maybe
food,
some
maybe.
piece of pizza or something. But like,
Yeah.
yeah,
So for them to be able to hustle and bustle like that is just truly mind blowing. So I think expedition, time wise, they were great, especially considering that they tripled or not tripled, doubled the amount of weight classes, right?
yep,
From last year to this year. So they doubled the amount of weight classes. They were given a significantly smaller space at the Arnold, and they ran day one 4 events
yeah,
faster than I've ever seen done, right? So I'd say that the timing wise, they did everything right. I think my biggest gripe is the way that they had it set up. They probably could have arranged the implements a little bit differently on the field, but in
yeah,
retrospect, it is what it is. You're doing what works at the time. And it is a qualifying round, and it is all about the athletes, not all about the spectators. You're at the Arnold, you've got 2,000 people watching no matter which angle they're watching at. So they don't care if your girlfriend or your wife or your best friend can
right.
get a good angle on a video of you doing a Viking press or whatever, right? At the end of the day, they don't care. They want you to finish the damn event.
Yep.
Um, and so from that perspective, I think that's all right. I
Yeah.
will say in the back though, it does make it incredibly challenging because athletes are constantly trying to figure out what's going on. You can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Um, the women who are champions calling us out, all the athletes to line us up, no voice by the time that they get
Oh,
to us,
and
right?
they
And I
did an
felt so bad. Oh gosh, they
amazing
were
job with that this year at the Arnold.
champions,
Yeah.
champions,
It is
unsung
funny.
heroes.
It is funny to think about the higher level contest you get to, the less warm up you get. Isn't that crazy
Yeah,
to think about?
it
Like
kind of is.
you go to a local show with 40 people. You're gonna have an
Mhm.
opportunity to warm up, take your time, BS with everyone.
Yeah.
You know, you're never gonna miss your like, and then like you go to like nationals and it's less, and then now the Arnold's even smaller.
Oh my
Like,
God. And what we're warming up on the carpet behind
dude, we
the
had
prep area next to
yeah,
the Ninja Warrior. Ding, ding,
yep.
ding.
Alec
Yeah.
Patron found a random football bar, like a Swiss bar, and that's how
Yes.
we were all warming up for Viking press
Where
on
did that
a
even come from?
dude. He just found it, and I don't want to throw him. We'll just say he
Hopefully he
didn't
stole
steal
that
it.
shit.
He didn't steal it, but he found a football bar, and we just used it and put it back with its
Yeah.
owner.
I mean, honestly, like, well, because we were kind of next to Highland Games guys. At one point in the Highland Games, Francis Berber was running that and all on day one. That area was enormous. And I think a lot of us were watching that too. And it's like you could have fit 2 of the strongman areas into the one Highland competition zone, which was mind blowing. But you also got to think like they're throwing weight over bar and they're throwing the indoor capers at least and things like that, the sheep toss. So I mean, they've got other things going on where they need some extra safety space just in case. But yeah, to have no warm-up space at all. I mean, I'm grateful that I train the way that I do train,
Yep.
where I can do some high knees and some sprints and some bounds and burpees and things like that, and I can feel good.
Yeah.
I just love doing burpees, and people like look over like, what the hell is this idiot doing
I do the
burpees
same thing
a
in
minute
training.
before
Like
events?
I love just jumping and running and doing like rolls and stuff. Like it's
Dude,
kind of
have you ever like wrestled or like done MMA or like any kind of jujitsu or
I
anything
did
like?
wrestling in high school.
So you've heard the concept blowing out your first lung?
Yep.
So
Yep.
like that's what I try to instill like in my practice, but also like in like with my athletes too. It's like you blow out your first lung before a
Right.
contest, right? You want to get prime, you want to get sweaty, you want to get moving. And for me, burpees and bounds, they
Right.
do.
Yeah. No, it's I remember just like my first like wow, like oh shit moment in strongman was the nationals that you won. So 2021 nationals
21, yeah.
in Roanoke. And just like I was so hyped. And this is why I tell people, like, even if you don't think you're going to win nationals, like, or a bigger show if you qualify for, I think it's a really good experience to go and meet people like
Absolutely.
yourself there at the top of the food chain and make friends and see how Andrew Hanus warms up, see how Andrew Clayton warms up, see
Yeah.
how Nick Canby warms up, see how
Yeah.
they
Damn
conduct
right.
themselves at the top level. And you can learn a lot because I remember I had hit the opening log, which for you, you probably didn't even have to touch it, but I had hit that in training like 3 to 5 times. Like for me, that was an easy opener. And then I go to my first big show and we're in the back, and all we have is like a 10-inch woman's log you get to touch one time. And for
Yeah.
me, it wasn't, I was training so perfectly and pristine and well kept. And then
Yeah.
I went to a show and it was like the second one thing went wrong. I was like, oh shit. My body's like, I've been warming up so perfectly, and that's not the real world application. And I went out there and just bombed on overhead press. And
Yeah.
and so I was able to learn, like, okay, I need to go and train and just be able to put 220 on a log and go up and hit it. Go put,
Right.
put 80% on a log. Like do a yoke run and go straight into farmers carries, like right after. You know what I mean? Because
Yep.
it's not always going to be an optimal circumstance at a contest.
Never.
And
Never. Which is why I like sort of impact driven or explosive types of exercises that I superset with all of my training, because I can start to do those and my body's conditioned and it's familiar with the movement, and it's saying, all right, it's time for the nervous system to wake up and to start firing. And so if I'm doing a heavy log session and I'm doing burpees in between, you're damn right I'm going to be doing burpees at a contest right before I walk up and hit a log,
yeah,
because my body is programmed now to do that. And it could be box jumps, it could be, you pick whatever it might be. But yeah, that's why I'm always bouncing around. I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
getting
That's
ready.
that's one thing I've learned just for myself, and then Andrew Clayton as a coach is all my warm-ups I can do at any contest.
Yes.
Like I think a lot of
That's
people
key.
rely on, oh, I need this bar or this PVC pipe or this
Oh,
special thing that only my gym has. And you go to a contest and you're like, well, man, you got a freaking pool that
yeah.
you can hang a band from. You got areas you can do lunges, burpees, stuff like that. So I real everything you're saying really resonates with me personally. I think that's a really
Yeah.
good point. Is
Yeah. No, that's
look look at anyone can look at, and you're a science man yourself, like anyone can look at the data and like and the theory aspect of it, but you have to look at the real world application of it and how in strongman
exactly.
specifically.
Exactly. And the only way you get better at competing is doing more contests anyways.
Yeah, yeah, I
That's it.
really agree with that. And I think too, like I tell people, even if you don't want to compete because it's expensive, I get it, and you don't want to hurt yourself because we do a lot of like high risk stuff. So even if you
We
want to compete a couple years ago, a couple times a year, go and volunteer at a contest, your local gym's contest, your contest that's 30 minutes away. Shoot the promoter an email. Trust me, as a promoter myself, you will get a free t-shirt, you will get fed, and I will be the most thankful person on earth for you coming to help us at our show. And I've
That's
learned
right.
as much volunteering as I have competing. Like,
Yeah. And sometimes even more too, because you start to understand, one, the standards for movements, which are critical. And then two, you start to really understand and appreciate the amount of effort that people are
yep,
putting into their lifts and what it takes. I think that being a judge or a volunteer is a really golden perspective. And if you haven't done it, you need to do it.
yeah. And I think also one thing about volunteering or judging is you will never yell at a volunteer or a judge again because you have been
Nope.
that volunteer judge. And people, and I do get it. You're in the heat of contest. Sometimes you say something or do something that isn't you, and because you're coming off this like huge, like your central nervous system is under this huge
Adrenaline's
stressor.
going and
But
yeah,
you'll appreciate people being you'll always be nice to a volunteer or a judge
yeah,
like after, and you realize how difficult it is. Like
yep.
you
So I'm always friendly with them too, because it's
yep.
just like, my fate is in your hands as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that too. And like, and you realize like uh, there's so many volunteers and judges, and they're just giving up a Saturday, a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday to just so
Yeah,
we can run a strongman contest.
yeah.
Like it's so silly and crazy, and it's so awesome that we have enough great people in the sport to
It's
be
why we
willing
can
to do
compete.
that.
Yeah,
Like it's
why
amazing.
we can compete.
Yeah.
I've had mock meets where it's literally, like something smaller and you put it on maybe for like a small bar or a restaurant or something like that. But it's all the athletes doing all the
Oh,
volunteering themselves. And let me tell you, if you have to actually set up the equipment and reset the equipment in between lifting it, I mean, you might as well just call that a training day.
yep. Yeah.
It,
I'll be really excited because I have I actually asked you about a whoop because you kind of like posted about whoops and stuff, and I
yes.
was looking for something to like track all my stuff and get better at sleep and kind of like trend some data. And I'll be super excited to see after I run my next show how high my strain is, because I know my strain
Ooh.
running a contest that weekend is way higher than competing
Uh,
at a contest.
right. Sorry, I'm trying to get you some good
Oh
angles
no,
so you don't get
you're good. You're like glowing right now for people watching on
sun
YouTube.
is blasting through. No, I think that's actually, I'm really kind of bothered that Whoop, call out, Whoop
Yeah.
has not installed a strongman activity yet. What are
Yep.
you waiting for?
Yeah. What's the
Unbelievable,
CEO's
right?
name?
Um, Will Ahmed
Yeah. So Will, this is the world champion from the 80 and 90, the world
and
champion in
90s.
strongman. He's telling you need a strongman activity.
You
I
need a
actually,
strongman activity, hands down. And I think what's mind blowing too is there are guys who are now like competing at the Rogue Classic, the Strongman Classic
yep.
level, and they're wearing whoops. And so you have elite level strongman, you have hundreds
Yep.
of amateur strongman wearing whoop, and you don't have a whoop
Yeah.
strongman activity. It blows my
I can
freaking
go
mind.
on and like see because we have a strongman community. I can just see like how much Nick Canby or Luke Richardson slept last
Love
night.
comparing myself to that, right? Like
It's
that's
really
so fun.
cool.
I think you made sort of the gesture or the jest that we had higher strains than the guys who played at the Super Bowl.
So that was
Like,
cool.
come on.
I measured my strain and your strain from the days we were at the Arnold, and we had a higher
Yeah,
strain. And I'm just for everyone out there, it's gonna get mad. I'm not comparing us to Patrick Mahomes because he's worth like $500 million. But
right.
our whoop, he wears a whoop,
He wears
and
a whoop.
yeah, he
A
wears
lot
a
of
whoop,
football players
and
do.
they put all his data out from the Super Bowl for his Super Bowl activity, and our
Yeah.
strain for the Arnold Amateur World Championship was higher than Patrick Mahomes' strain. Now,
Yeah.
that speaks
And
a
that was
lot to
just day
effort.
one.
Yeah, just day one.
We had and you look at my day two. My day two was even worse.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. I actually did put out the message, and I sent Whoop a nice uh, email because I own a barbell club that is strictly like it's mainly strongman to
No
use
kidding.
our gym and have 50 plus strongmen and women athletes at their disposal for testing. So
Yeah. See,
if they need data on the activity, we are more than welcome to do it because it
right.
does suck like you're trending your data like on powerlifting or cycling and
Or functional fitness I
yeah.
use because I'm like, well, it's not powerlifting, but it's
Right.
not weightlifting.
On days where I have just like odd object, when I was training the odd object load for the Arnold, I tracked it as manual labor
Yeah,
because I was
dude,
just it is kind
that's
of
it.
what we do.
Right. But now we're giving Whoop false data points.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So I mean, now their data is going to be skewed on
Yeah.
that. And I mean, as a data man, you don't want that.
Right. Yeah.
But
Exactly.
they have some stupid ones. Like they have a Whoop strain for percussive therapy.
Yeah.
How do you not have strongman? I
And they
mean,
have like I got an update and it was like we've added 10 activities, and the activities were like pressure washing, chess, like all these like
wow,
things that just like, and I'm not knocking on pressure
playing
washers
chess,
and chess players, but you
but
know
still.
yeah, it would be cool. But if anyone has a Whoop, and they're listening to this episode and they haven't before, I don't know if I've ever talked about it in the pod, just shoot me a message. I'll send you an invite to our communities because it's really
Yes.
cool and awesome. Like I
Yeah.
started a strongman community with like a lot of like novice people. We have like 25 plus people in it now, and it's really it's just cool to
Oh, it's
yeah, it's cool to
great.
see. And you can chat, you can measure data, all that stuff. So it's fun.
Yeah.
But
I love it. And the
yeah,
price just went down. Monthly price just
yeah,
went down on it.
$17 a month now. That's not
Yeah.
bad at all.
I mean, I use it religiously to
Me
measure how I'm
too.
feeling, and it is so accurate. And
Yeah,
this is
me
how
too.
good Whoop is. Like the day I woke up, every time I've gotten COVID, so 3 times now, Whoop knows that
I've
I'm
had
sick before I'm sick.
I've had multiple people tell me that with
Yep.
a Whoop. My buddy Ben,
Blows
who
my
he's
mind.
he's been on it for like 3 years. He was like early Whoop, and he told me every time he's getting sick, it trends that data and basically tells him.
It'll give you a notification, hey, FYI, this is a
Yeah,
trend, or you might be getting sick because your resting heart rate or your respiratory rate, like it's tracking all of
yeah.
those things.
It was crazy for my water cut of how it's like giving me all these like flash warnings because like your respiratory rate is so much higher than before. Like as I'm in the sauna, it's like sending me like alerts and stuff because
Like,
it's like the highest
yo,
respiratory rate I've been at for like years, and
yeah,
it's cool. But I'll say like the thing it helps me with most is just like I feel like I'm pretty compared to like the average person, I'm pretty disciplined. But like being able to actually see the data and be like, man, I only slept 6 hours and 12 minutes. It like pushes me and motivates me like to have that actually like physical data in front of me to
yeah.
like
I
push
want more
myself.
sleep. I want better sleep.
Right. 100%.
Yep.
It's like a game. It's like a video game with myself and it pushes
100%.
myself. So
I've
yeah.
noticed actually because I've gone on and off Whoop for years now, and I've noticed like when I'm actually using my Whoop, I will get better sleep because I am paying attention to how my sleep is
Yeah.
tracking. And I mean, you could do the same with other tracking
Yeah.
devices
Like an
too.
Apple Watch or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, with Whoop, I love it because you can charge it every like 4 or 5 days or
Yeah.
whatever,
That's the best part.
and forget
You
about it.
never take it off once. Like that's the
Yeah.
crazy part.
Yep.
I'm in a
I
sleep
never took it
contest.
off during the contest. I
Right.
move it up my wrist and things like that. Or
Yeah.
I've seen guys put it around their ankles, and now
I've
they
seen
make
that
like
as well.
underwear and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, definitely worth it, and they definitely need to get strongman activity on
Yeah,
there.
we'll clip
Hands
it.
down.
We'll clip it and talk.
We're
You
clipping this.
talking about it, and we'll send it to him.
Oh
So
yeah, I tag
yeah,
him every time. He's
yeah,
never.
me too.
Been once.
I tag like you, Canby, people like that. Like when I do my
Yeah.
Whoop rants on Instagram. So we'll keep pushing Whoop. Uh, but yeah, is there anything else you kind of want to talk about as far as I'm sure you'll be back on the pod again, and I always appreciate your time. We'll go to
Oh,
some questions too, but is there anything kind of you wanted to talk about? I
ooh.
like anything you want to promote, anything, just shout outs, anything. I mean, the floor is yours.
And well, I will just want to give some thanks to all the volunteers that were at Arnold. Like you guys, you rocked it. Thank you. Some of you I was able to, handshake and fist bump, and I didn't even know who you were. So thank you for all that. The medic team, you guys were outstanding. Thank every single one of you, Doc Ray, for taking care of me, taking care of my buddy Rick, and really even like at the very end, when I was getting some serious low back pain after that crazy Ukrainian deadlift, um getting massaged out and whatnot was just fabulous. So I'm so thankful that Strongman Corporation had that medic team
That was
there on
cool.
hand for the athletes, ready to go at no cost,
Right. Well,
for
that's one
the
thing.
athletes.
You just reminded me. Sorry, I know I told you the floor
Yeah,
is yours, but you just reminded me of two things. I wanted to ask you a question just personally.
let's hear it.
How did the Ukrainian deadlift feel?
Honestly, it felt really good. I think the only thing that was really awkward is because it was like the sumo pull, right? The handles when you got to yes, I have big legs. I have
Yeah.
20 26-inch thighs, but when I got to the top, like I could feel the handles just dig it into the inside of my groin, and that was really uncomfortable. So I was kind of setting myself back a little bit further, and it was just odd to set up. But I'm sure given more time with it, I could find a place where I'm super
Yeah.
comfortable at it. But honestly, it was much easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I was able to get into a pretty good squat set or a squat positioning. and use a lot of quad power for that, like I'm doing box squats or something like that. And I mean, it was simple.
Yeah.
I think I'd
I think
100% love to do it again.
your weight was like
535.
so how did that feel compared to like if you were gonna do a 535 sumo deadlift?
Felt easier.
Yeah,
100%.
weight. I mean, I guess it's
Felt much
fixed
easier.
too.
Yeah.
It's more like fixed. So I mean, I was just
Yeah.
curious.
I will say I did notice a couple people said because it's in this like the tubing it's a square tube
It's like
and it's
guided.
in this yeah and it's the hole is a square as well cut through this plywood. If that bar hit any angle of the wood as you were pulling it up, you would get that friction
Mhm.
and you would create some drag
You
force
could
on it.
see that on people that
Oh
would like
yeah.
miss their first pull, but then come out and like hit like four or
Yep.
five more.
I could feel the moment I hit an edge, I could feel the drag, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh!" And you'd have to readjust just a little bit. I felt that more in my pecs than I did anything, actually.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah,
that was my biggest regret of not making the finals. I wanted to do that Ukrainian deadlift so bad
I
because I
think
just like
if more
deadlifting.
people would have made finals, they would have destroyed that event
Yeah.
because there are a lot of good deadlifters I know that didn't make the finals.
Yeah. That's why you got to be well rounded. But
Right. And I will say I did not appreciate that the Ukrainian deadlift and the power stairs though were back to back. I
yeah,
think
that's tough.
really silly on Strongman Corp to put those two events, which are essentially identical, back to back. Yeah, the compliment is, oh, you get to warm up before the power stairs, but I just don't think that that was like the wisest thing to put them back to back. But I don't. Maybe they didn't have a choice based on everything
Yeah.
else,
Yeah.
you know.
I say, yeah.
But I told Dion, I was like, you need to use that all the time. That implement,
The
we
Ukrainian.
need to see it more. We
Yeah.
need to see it more because
Dude,
it's
I feel
awesome.
so bad for people resetting power stairs.
Oh golly.
I just could never. It's a cool event. It's like a historical, and it's just awesome for spectators. I could never
Yeah.
imagine having one of that at one of my shows because just what you
Yeah.
put your volunteers through is insane.
Insane.
Resetting that,
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
but
So
but yeah, I cut you off because I just that you reminded me of the Ukrainian deadlift. But what else do you have?
whew, oh man. I guess that's kind of it. I don't know. I just always like coming on here and just
Yeah,
catching up.
yeah, we're always
Shooting
thankful
shit.
to have you come on and stuff like that. Um, hopefully I think this will be our number one download episode ever. I think I got a good feeling about
Let's
it.
fingers crossed. Fingers
We'll
crossed.
see.
Yeah, I think honestly, I'm interested to see how the Arnold does progress in years to come. Because there were a lot more people there this year, especially on Saturday, which was kind of crazy to walk around. But I
Yeah.
feel like there weren't nearly as many vendors.
Yeah, so I've heard stuff about that as to why. And it makes sense because I never yeah, money and I think Arnold rubbed everyone wrong. I don't know if you remember a couple years ago when the whole COVID thing and he said like screw your freedoms no matter what side of that you're on. I
Oh,
think
that's
he
right.
rubbed a couple people wrong and that
Oh
2020
my.
Arnold we were on our way to go there when they canceled it for like the actual
Yeah.
expo thing and I know people that had booths there like there's I want to say like 1,000 booths at the Arnold, right?
Yeah.
At least close to. There's hundreds of booths,
A
and
few hundred for sure.
a lot of people use that as a startup for their supplement company. Like that's their launch.
Yep.
And they didn't refund people from that 2020 Arnold. They just offered them a discount for the following year. And that's such an expensive thing for
Wow.
a supplement company, maybe even that's just starting up. And I also heard that they're not providing companies with an email list of signups now. So they don't have that for
What's the
marketing.
incentive?
Exactly. You're not going to sell $10,000 worth of product, a lot of people at the Arnold.
No, gosh, no.
So not
You're gonna
having that
lose money at
marketing,
the Arnold.
right? So not having that for marketing, I think is a huge issue.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of the mixed thing I've heard. Did you ever go to the Arnold like back in the day? Like 20,
Oh.
it was,
Oh.
it was a lot crazier then, like on Saturday. Like this
Yeah.
Saturday, I was there for a while walking around and it was much more mild than like 2015 Arnold was insane. You
Wow.
couldn't,
Okay.
there would be times where you would be standing still for 25 minutes. You couldn't walk.
Whoa. Okay. I
Yeah.
wouldn't even enjoy that.
Yeah, it was tough. We always went in on like Friday and Sunday and kind of just went and trained on Saturday and just like,
Yeah.
made it like a bro day. But
Fair. Man, yeah, I wouldn't enjoy that. And so I wonder what's next. Like, how is it
right.
gonna How's it going to progress? Or does another spot sort of come up? Because, Arnold Strongman at least it's created itself as sort of this pinnacle for the sport, both for the elite and for the amateurs. And so, of course, we look forward to that. But for the overall expo, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I'll be curious. Hopefully it keeps growing on the strongman side of things, and
It
progressing and
needs
getting
to.
better,
We need to see
better
some
for the
prize money
athletes.
at these strongman events too. I mean, I was butthurt when we sat there and we watched the U.S. powerlifting. What was it? It was the Pro Series on the
Oh yeah.
stage on day 2, right on Sunday. We watched that before we actually competed on that stage, and they were giving out up to $3,000 for every single podium for every single class. And at the very end, the announcer said that USA Powerlifting had that whole weekend, the entire cumulative weekend, given out $77,000 in
Wow.
podium award money.
That's crazy.
$77,000. That blew my mind. And the fact that we can't find funds for podium finishers at the strongman contest when we have a fraction of the amount of contestants, a fraction of the amount of podiums. I mean, that blows my mind that you can't find
Yeah.
podium through our sponsors and whatnot. I mean, through the membership fees, we spent a lot of money to just be a contestant this year. I mean, I understand that there are expenses, but how is it that the powerlifting scene is always, always, always giving out cash awards? And strongman, it's far and few between. And if it is, it's very low. And I think
Yeah.
that's more of a business
Yeah.
model
It's a
question.
business, and I hopefully we get there, like to the
Yeah,
point
I
where it
think
is.
some people are showing that there is a path.
Yeah.
Some people are definitely showing that there's a path, but I want to see that there is a viable path for the long term for the amateur sports, because that's how you keep people in it. That's how you keep people in the sport and keep people wanting to come to the sport. I almost want to go do powerlifting because I know I'm going to get cash prize here and there. It's crazy. So
Yeah.
hopefully our promoters and federations and everybody's been taking notes and learning the do's and the don'ts from one another, because everybody's doing some things right and some things wrong.
That's the
Um,
that's the most frustrating thing about strongman is like it's almost like if you took everything in America and put it together, it would be perfect. But
right.
there's a lot of divide. So I
Yes.
think we can do a whole podcast episode on that. But
Definitely. Yeah,
but
the soap opera that is American Strongman.
all right. So got some questions. We're apologies as people. We're not going to get to all of them because we had a lot of questions.
Dude, there were a lot.
Let's just go kind of rapid fire. Some are going to take a little bit longer than 5-10 seconds, but I'm just going to rattle them off. You just answer as quickly and kind of off the cuff as you want.
All right.
So if you hosted a strongman comp, 5 events, what would they be?
5 events. Holy moly. Sandbag toss over bar. You know what's gonna happen. I think one thing I would like to see would be a max log. Max log is always really fun. I want to do something really weird, like the pillar, what's it called? The pillar of Croton or something like that. Where he's holding the big pillar on his back.
Oh yeah,
Have
yeah,
it in Norway, basically that giant log where they just stand up,
yeah,
how they can hold it. We'll do something like that. I think you got to have some kind of deadlift, and since I'm feeling kind of good off the power stairs, I'm going to say power stairs.
there you go. That's a
Kind
good
of pick,
contest right there.
yeah. And I don't know, just some kind of medley. So it's got to be some kind of loading event. So maybe a sandbag or stone, odd object, stone series, something like that.
Cool. What's your favorite contest you ever did?
The most favorite contest I ever did was probably it's gonna be so biased because it wasn't my favorite for an athlete, but it was my favorite for a spectator, and it was beer muscles in
Mm,
2019 or 2020. That they did just an amazing job engaging spectators. They had so many things to do for the spectators. They had like carnival booths and things like that. It was just raffles like crazy. And I wanted to do more spectating than competing.
yeah,
And I
they do
think
they
that
do
that's
such a good
key.
job with that show. It's from
Oh
everyone
yeah.
I hear. That's
Oh yeah.
really cool.
Wonderful job.
Um, what techniques do you have for battling mental obstacles? So I think you kind of already answered that one during the episode.
Oh yeah, we
Um,
kind of did. We talked a lot
yeah,
about that.
yeah, we talked a lot
But
about that.
staying in control of your emotions and just really staying driven for yourself, right? That's the biggest thing is controlling what you can control.
So now that you've closed on your new home, what's your first big purchase?
Well, the first big purchase is carpet.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, we got to buy some carpet, but I do plan to do a little bit more renovations in the garage space. I'll get some garage flooring and insulation in. That way, I can actually train in these Wisconsin winters and not freeze to death.
yeah,
Because training this year in this winter in an uninsulated garage with gloves and boots and thermal was just terrible. But it worked apparently.
yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah, I
Made
can
me
relate.
prettier.
I can relate. Just the new house is just a lot. Just
There's so much that goes
just
into it.
spending after like money honestly just becomes like not real for like a month. It's like, oh God.
Right.
It's like
You
dreadful.
kind of forget how expensive it is when you move into a new place and you kind of go on a spending spree and you're like, oh shit, we got to reel it back.
What are yeah. What are some of the dumbest questions that have been asked in a rules meeting that you've heard?
Dumbest question. Oh my, I can't even think right now, but I mean, you always get some really stupid questions. And I wish people would just pause to think about like what they're asking before they ask it, because sometimes you're just asking what they just told you.
Yeah. It's
So you're not
there,
listening.
there's
So
good questions
don't
in
waste
rules
people's time.
meetings. There's good questions for sure, but like it does blow my mind. Like you go to a world championship like the Arnold. So everyone had to qualify to get there. So you're talking about like kind of like the top
The top
10% of the
level.
sport.
That's right.
And the questions I think are worse there than at like novice only shows.
Yeah.
Like it's
I should have started a long time ago. I never thought of it until now, but I should have started a long time ago to keep a running list of all the stupid ass questions that people ask and then just make some memes of it over time. Because man, people do have some really dumb things. And I can't
yeah,
think of any that were at the Arnold specifically right now, but come on, people, like get it
yeah.
together. This
It's
is world level.
strongman is meant to be weird and obscure, and like the level of like standardization that I think people want now is insane. Like I know as a promoter, people literally ask me like exact for like pictures of exact measurements of like obscure
Yeah,
implements and what the weather's gonna be like in a month on the contest day. What it's just
man, that's
the
annoying.
exact
If you
floor that
can't
they're
be prepared
lifting
for the
on.
unknown, then I don't know.
Right.
You
What
have to
was
make some changes mentally.
in just a couple words, what was your experience like on the Titan games?
Ooh, the Titan games. Very eye-opening. To understand and learn how Hollywood production does Hollywood production.
Yeah.
But it was also very rewarding in that the community of athletes that was brought together. Again, look at the keyword community, right? Of athletes that was brought together. We formed such an incredible bond. We still talk to each other daily, all 30 of us. We have several different group chats going on all the time. And I think the connections that we made there are going to live forever.
That's cool.
Definitely well worth it. Competition, it was fun.
Yeah. This is a good one to end on. What's something you wish you had known before getting into strongman?
How much money I would spend on it?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Well, we this is a pretty long episode. I think we went over an hour. I wasn't timing it,
Sorry.
but definitely went over an hour, I think. But I think the people are really gonna like it. Is there any last words you have? Anything you want to say?
Not really. If you have questions, reach out. I'm incredibly responsive on Instagram primarily,
Yeah.
Hanus Strength. Um, but yeah, if you have questions around programming, around dieting, I'll direct you to the people that I use and the people that I think are maybe good for you. Because it's all about experimentation and finding the people that work best for you, right? But yeah, just if you have questions, reach out. Plain
Yeah.
and simple.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on. If you guys are not following Andrew, make sure you follow him on Instagram. Wish
That's
him
right.
or congratulate him coming off his second world championship at a second weight class. And he's definitely open to questions, everything like that. He's a good follow. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel.
Please do.
Like, comment, all that stuff. Tell us what
Hit the
other guests you
bell.
want to have on. tell Andrew to come back on in the future, all that stuff. And you can go to 580barbell.com for all our pre-workout, everything like that. But
Horsepower.
yeah, we will see you guys next week for episode 119.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
man.
guys.